I was born not far short of 27 years ago, not in a crossfire hurricane, as heroes usually add to their story, but instead with the name Sunshine, Love Pocket, Good Wife, which was a legacy of the free spirited hippie commune my parents infested. That naming has not been an easy thing for a man to forgive. I have never got around to changing Sunshine to something I'd be willing to admit to, or bringing the private justice system down on my mom and dad. But that was never realistic in a childhood when little dudes had no money and only trading assets like a feathered bow and a sucker dart. You can get through life without a name. The circumstances of my birth were as painful and traumatic as I could make them. 3 minutes after the umbilical cord was cut, I touched the floor, found my legs, burst through the flap of the tent, ran away from home, and never came back. That is why I am now a digital nomad. Digital nomadcy, if I may introduce the term for all you clackers, meaning earning your living through online work and having the freedom to roam wherever you want on this inspirational planet, as long as each flophouse you end up in has a reliable broadband connection. Never staying anywhere for more than a couple of months can mean the laptop itself is the nomad's best friend. And I should add the warning, if you are considering my lifestyle, put some money aside each month because no country will look after you when the work slows down. I've seen so many countries already, such beautiful and memorable places, when I've been staring into the same screen. My work is simple enough: optimizing websites, setting up backlinks, reviewing coffee shops, proofreading, and posting content on behalf of international bloggers. I'm self-educated from sleeping in libraries, and I can do my job anywhere. Freelancing has its peaks and sinkholes. Bloggers and site owners pay me to present their content beautifully and keep my name out of it, which is all I have ever wanted. Yesterday, I was kicked out of Singapore for chewing gum. What else was I supposed to do with it? And that's how I got here, putting myself through another airport experience. Clearance from airside to the open end of the terminal was a terminal experience. But I take the rough with the smooth. When the clackers who worked there saw I only had hand luggage, they thought, uh-oh, drug mule, and held me back for questions. They wanted to know where I was staying. I wasn't sure yet. Some hotel. Finally, they allowed me to go. But by that time, I was the last passenger from my flight to pass dazed into the open arrivals hall. The scene was much as I'd come to expect. Families from around the world ticked down the boring minutes, waiting for reunification. Some to a party or other massed around their leader as they held a tacky plastic flag. And there were the usual chauffeurs sent to collect business bodies and drag them back to the corporate morgue. That was not for me. I skateboarded over the tiles, signs, and floor stickers to the taxi rank, flipped the board up to my hand, and asked how much it would cost to take me to the city. How much? Bloody heavens. So I turned around and went back into the arrivals area, looking for backpackers who might want to share a lift and not be a right fool. Unluckily, all I saw around there was families. I could see a kid staring at my skateboard, so I held it tight, then realized he was only trying to read the underside sticker. If you value your website as much as I value the skateboard, don't mess with it. It's a hacker thing. Standing in the very center of the entrance was one of those sniffy chauffeur guys, holding up a card with the logo of a mega hotel, my flight number, and the name Mr. Biscuity. A thought piled up in the back of my mind. If I was the last passenger off my flight, this dude might not be coming for his free lift to the city. Okay, I could be Mr. Biscuity. It was like one of those dream beaches where you never want to leave. The hotel, Grand Spruce Romani, was wicked, with its baths, colonnades, palms, sculptures, and dining rooms, sometimes all 5 in one suite. My bedroom was prepaid, and the hotel had been told I could put all my food and drink on account. But I felt conscious about racking that up too much and being pushed to pay it all back. So I asked for my usual cheese and everything sandwich on a clean plate. Force of habit. I spent last week cropping and arranging content in a regular gig for some flashy lifestyle bloggers, so was prepared for this version. I have seen what the bloggers see in images, but I haven't tasted what they've tasted or felt what they felt, rolled with the rattle of a casino or flopped into a sea of goose feather cushions. It was awesome in that hotel. I soaked my clothes in the sink and aired them out on the window on the curtain pole, and then I had to get some sleep, clocking out on those pillows. For a traveler who tries to wash in the sea for nothing, next morning's bath was another level of relaxation. Mango and barnacle scalp gel, a rubber duck, 16 towels reducing in sequence down to the size of napkins, and no sharks. It was all there. I got into my clothes and remembered breakfast, picked up my board, laptop bag, and I was off ski. Then the strangest thing happened. I've never opened a door before and found some clacker falling into my knees with a bump, then bundling around on the floor, looking up in shock and crying out a fine spray that misted the mirrors. This sister was batting out words in Italian American, cacking herself about being discovered. Mr. Biscotti, spare me. I was not listening at the door. I was finding if you were in there before knocking. Please don't, Mr. Biscotti, she went. I'm not going to do anything, Missy. Chill out. Are you all right? Let me get you up, I answered. I was unprepared for your awareness, your steel trap reactions when I touched your door. I see in your profession, you must know everything about your customers to make a killing. What did she think I was, freaking Alexa? She told me her name was Clarinetta, the second eldest daughter of the Serenunte family, who were paying my bill. She twitched a bit and began calming down. Then the words, "My name is," were out of my mouth, and I froze. I had been chill up to this moment, but suddenly wasn't. I know, Biscotti, I can guess you were expecting an Italian man. It is no surprise. People like you always work with aliases. I tagged along with the panicky woman to breakfast, although she said we couldn't be long. We both had a mixed fruit granola in a rush, then mellow green coffee before it went lukewarm, which was good. We talked of this and that and found we got along. She was going to get such a surprise in a minute when I walked off and kept going. Clarinetta then wanted me to hurry over the toast and curly seashell butter, so I asked, "What's the rush? You have to be in position by 12 o'clock to murder Antonio Zapata," which kind of spoiled the morning for me after all. She palmed me a photo of the man, some notorious crime boss, then hid it back in her jacket. "Okay, you are the best. That's why we pay you top dollar. You are the man with no home, no identity, no face, hard to find, harder to catch. You do business, then you're gone, like a whisper." "Am I?" I nodded, taking into this matter of opinion. The man without a name, without a home, but with a real problem. I soon found I couldn't run, not after I met her bull-necked cousin waiting patiently for me in the lobby, nor when their chubby fingers steered me into their flat black car with auto-locking doors. "Bulletproof, see?" said Lorenzo, with a wave around the windows. I said nothing. They took the look of terror on my face as a sign of professionalism. A cave is a tomb. "Half the money you have received. The rest when we see the body," Lorenzo told me, which also meant that the real Mr. Biscotti would be getting all the money. I didn't want to touch any dodgy cash, but wondered if the man I was meant to be might be just as confused about today as I was. Marco passed me an oblong suitcase, which I opened and then looked over a very serious weapon. It had a stock, silencer, and a snap-action coupling thing that I knew I would have to connect together at the first try or look stupid. What would happen to me if I looked wrong? I was trying not to think about it. "The scope, with parabolic cancellation, what you asked for. Ammunition?" "Ammunition, yes. Okay, one please." "He only needs one bullet, Marco," Lorenzo noted. "Not like you clowns." "How do you do it, without a sighting shot?" Marco asked me. I was about to make something up about peering down the side of the barrel when Clarinetta came to my rescue. "Marco, you do your job, and he does his. Miss Cusi?" We drove on in deathly silence, which made me think back to sleeping in all those libraries. With half an hour to go until 12, we arrived at a municipal building, got out in the rear alley, and headed up a double flight of clanking metal steps. It was quiet, which formed the connection in my head that this must be Saturday. Marco and Lorenzo seemed busy pulling crusty pigeon nettings off the brickwork to open my route to the roof, so I said my goodbyes to Clarinetta. I had already decided my gangster's shot would have to miss. "Don't miss," she said. "Zapata will feed your parts to the alligators." "Why alligators?" "He ran out of pigs." "Why did he run out of pigs?" "He had to feed the alligators." Clearly, a man who took sides. I could see there was only one thing left for me to do. Go straight to the police. "And don't get caught by the police. Detective Habanero has connected your name to many assassinations, and you will never see the sun again." "Nuts," I summarized to myself, as she pushed a disposable phone into my pocket. "In case of anything," she ended, smiled tensely, and backed away. It's at times like these when I find myself sitting on my laptop in the clock tower of a knackered town hall, pointing a weapon of war at a florist shop's doorway that I imagine my mad hippie parents might have got it right after all. I aimed, tried to stop blinking, then someone walked into my circle of glass. That was when I had trouble. Clarinetta had shared a picture of me, of Zapata's face, but I seemed now to be looking into the back of some chatty's curly head. Was that Zapata? It was 12 o'clock, and I knew the shot need not go anywhere, so aimed well above the door and began to pull the trigger. Then the phone rang. Don't pull the trigger. It was Clarinetta speaking. That is Zapata's cousin, Roberto Venicioni. He must have sent him to collect the flowers instead. Turn quickly. Zapata is about to walk up the steps of the bank in the main street, more than half a mile from here. Can you see it? The building with temple columns down by the waterway. I could make out the building, but it was too far from where they had put me. What the goof, I thought, and fired harmlessly into the air. He's down. You got him in the brain. Palermo rat, cried Clarinetta in triumph. You are the best, Biscuity. The very best. I said it. I knew it. Lorenzo called over her. Now get him out of this place. I have thought about that moment over and again, trying to understand what really happened that day. It can't have been me because I fired almost straight up to make certain I couldn't hurt a soul. I can only think that the real Mr. Biscuity, who had been paid as promised, decided not to reveal himself to these clackers and had made his own way to Zapata without even hearing about me. He or she was the professional. Even so, I needed to get to the airport and away from these crazy schmoes. Back at the terminal, I skated in the front door like a returning emperor, took a ticket, and boarded an internal flight south. It flew not a moment too soon by my counting. Name? Profession? Who? Me? I'm just a digital nomad. My future plans? Don't bust me up when I'm busting up the nature of the workplace, clacker. On the plane, I tried opening up my webbook to make up for the lost day, but I could see I wasn't in the best place for thinking. The chatty in the seat next to me asked what I did, so I told her about being a digital nomad and working online. She asked if I had chosen this way of living or if it had been determined for me. I said I wasn't sure. She said she liked to ask the stuff because she was a philosopher, and one of the hardest problems she ever worked on is a thing called free will, which might be an illusion. She said a person with no free will has no moral responsibility and should not be punished for their actions. Wow, I thought, that was a good one. Moral agency, the power to choose, she said, might only happen with complex decisions, not basic survival ones where everyone runs on autopilot. What's important in society, she bantered on, is our actions, not our judgments and thoughts. So if you decide to do something wrong to someone and then change your mind, that's okay. What the chuddy really wanted to study, she said, was a very rare kind of person who doesn't have any autopilot and makes only their own choices all the time. A loose cannon, free will. A person like that could do anything at all in or to society, she said. Things that normal people would never do because their brains won't let them cross imaginary barriers. After clearing customs, I realized I wasn't that much better off than last time. The chauffeurs were back on the concourse, collecting their business bodies, and I thought, hey, I have a pretty good moral and ethical code when I'm not feeling the pinch financially, which was now. Even in the deep south, they use money. Again, I felt the drifter's choice between eating something today or taking a taxi. So I had better conserve the dough. Who'd be me? One of the chauffeurs held up a card welcoming some clacker calling his idiot self Grand Dragon Quail. So I walked over, said, that's me. Got a few funny looks from the other drivers. Some fierce-looking old dude on an electric mobility scooter began shouting and waving as he crawled towards us. So I waved back. The chauffeur sympathized that I must get a lot of abuse in my line, and I didn't get his meaning, but was happy to be led away. I think that brings my story up to date, as I'm typing this on the webbook now. Skateboard over my knees like a table in the backseat of their limo. The driver said we're going to some sort of stadium. After all, it should be child's play to fit in as a key speaker at a swords and sorcery convention, so I doubt I'll have much else to worry about this evening.